Hello, my sweet friends, and welcome to DIY with Nadia. Today, I'm making 5 farmhouse buffalo check tier tray DIYs. They're little DIYs, and I made them using Dollar Tree supplies. Let's get started. We're going to get started with this sweet little truck, and I absolutely love how it turned out. The first thing I am going to do is I'm going to take it apart. I'm just going to use one side of it. The side where the front one stayed on, that's the side I'm going to be using. And then I am going to remove the second piece of wood from the other side, and I'm going to save it till the end because we're going to use it to prop this truck up. Grabbing my white chalk Rust-Oleum paint in linen white, I'm going to give the body of the truck one good coat, including all the edges. Next, I'm grabbing a pencil and I'm outlining the fenders and the tires. And I'm by no means an artist. And the only reason I knew the word fender is because my husband's a truck driver. But I just did my best and I followed the cutouts of the truck itself to find the line of my fenders and my tires. Using a small brush, I'm using an orange paint by Craftmark and I'm just painting the fenders, and I'm also going to go inside that cutout and paint the fender kind of on top of that cutout. So if someone's looking at this truck from a distance, they're going to see that the fenders are kind of continuing all the way around. Now I'm grabbing a small paintbrush that has long, thin bristles on it, and using black chalk paint, I'm going to paint the tires. And obviously, you could just use whatever black paint you have on hand. It's going to look beautiful. Next, I'm grabbing my 5/8 inch buffalo check ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to go all the way around on this one. I want that back to be completely covered in ribbon because I'm kind of going to be using it as a little support for my pumpkins. The pumpkins I'm going to be using come 10 in a pack from the Dollar Tree. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove those things that are supposed to be stumps on top. I don't like the ones that usually come. I love the natural look of grabbing some sticks from the backyard and just hot gluing them in the center of the pumpkin. And I think it makes all the difference in the world. So let me know down below if you do the same thing and if you agree that just grabbing a piece of twig from the backyard is a lot better than just keeping the stump that comes with these pumpkins, or pretty much any pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, because I always do this to all the pumpkins that I get at the Dollar Tree. Now it's time to attach the pumpkins. I'm just grabbing my X-Acto knife, and yes, for those of you with medical background, that is a 15 blade. And I'm going to grab one of those pumpkins and cut them on a slant just so there's something to hold on to, just because they're round and they're going to be suspended in air a little bit. So you need some good base. And yes, if you can use Gorilla Glue for this, please do. It will just give you a stronger hold and nothing is going to move. And so I did my first pumpkin, and then I am adding some hot glue from underneath, so kind of props it up and letting it cool off. For the second pumpkin, I'm going to very carefully press it against the top of that truck right there to kind of mold it into the railing. And then that is where I'm going to put my hot glue and then attach it. I'm going to do the same thing with my third pumpkin and hot glue it in place. The fourth and the fifth pumpkin, I'm just stacking on top of my first three pumpkins, hot gluing them and holding them in place until nicely dried. Now I'm going in the back and just hot gluing everywhere where the pumpkins are touching in the back, so it gives it more security. To complete this project, I'm grabbing that second piece of wood that we broke off initially, and I'm going to hot glue it to the end of our little wooden piece that's still attached to our truck. And that is what's going to keep the truck up. Now, after I displayed the truck, I realized that the top of that wooden piece kind of shows. So I'm just grabbing some white chalk paint and painting that wooden block on top. Today's video is part of the Harvest Market collab. It is hosted by my sweet friend Crafty Leanie and myself, DIY with Nadia. We are also being joined by Domestic Diva DIY, Freckled Mom DIY, Country Lily DIY Decor, Lori Bly DIY, and Wendy's Creative Space. To see what these talented ladies have made for this collab, I will have a playlist in the description box below. Please click on that for some beautiful fall inspirations. To start on this mini DIY for you tier tray, what you're going to need are those Jenga blocks from the Dollar Tree. Mine are painted white because they were from a previous project. So what I'm doing is my first Jenga block I'm putting in vertically. Then the next three I'm putting in horizontally. And then the fifth one I'm putting in vertically once again. And I'm just hot gluing them all together to form this little rectangle. Here I wanted to show you real quick the Jenga blocks that I'm using. Now I'm grabbing the Farmers Market calendar from 2021 and I'm going to be using that back little picture, excuse the interruption over here, and I'm grabbing the one that says Autumn Harvest and I'm going to cut it out. After trimming it to fit my little rectangle perfectly, I'm going to hot glue it in place. Next, I'm grabbing some of that 5/8 inch buffalo check ribbon from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to hot glue little strips to the sides of my sign and I'm hot gluing them in place in the back. For this project, I'm going to be using one of those wooden trays from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to turn it around and now I'm going to use these maple leaves. I'm going to be using the red ones and the red orange ones only. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stack the red ones from the top and from the bottom and then the red orange ones are going to go towards the center. As I'm moving along, I'm hot gluing each row in place and making sure I cover the sides of the tray. Next, I'm going to pick which side of my tray is going to be the bottom and I'm going to hot glue the leaves down on that side. Now it's time to make a simple bow using buffalo check ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I made my loops 5 inches in length and gave a dollop of hot glue in the center to bring the bow together. Now I'm just making sure my tails are even, and with this type of ribbon, I do like to fold it at the bottom. I usually don't cut it because it tends to fray. Now I'm just pinching it in the middle and using an extra piece of the ribbon to bring it together and cover that center of the bow. Grabbing another leaf, I'm going to cover that center and then I'm going to put my bow about 1/3 down from the top. Next, I'm grabbing a maple leaf sticker I got at the Dollar Tree and I'm attaching it to the center of the bow. To finish up my project, I'm going to make little waves or little ribbon tails, as I call them, to my bow. And all I did was halfway down, fold my ribbon up and then fold it back underneath. And that's what's going to make my little wave. And that's just going to give it a very sweet and high-end look to this project. I'm starting this project with this little 4-inch shadow box. It had a little tractor on top, so I'm grabbing my hacksaw and hacking that off, and then using a medium fine sanding block, I'm just sanding it down. After that, I'm grabbing my black chalk paint, and I'm going to give the shadow box one coat of the black chalk paint, and then I went back and inside the shadow box, I gave it one more coat. Next, I'm grabbing these metallic leaves, and I have 2 of these from the orange pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, but you can find these in many pieces of decor. And I'm just going to give them 2 coats of the white chalk paint. Next, I'm grabbing my Mod Podge and I'm going to seal that white paint in and let it dry for at least half an hour. Now I'm going to hot glue my leaves on the inside and I just moved one to one side and the other one towards the other side, overlap them, and they look so beautiful against a black background. For the bow, I'm going to be using this Farmhouse Buffalo check ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be making a continuous bow. First, I'm making my loop, then I'm going around my hand and putting the ribbon in between my third and fourth finger, which is my ring finger. I'm holding the beginning of the ribbon and pulling the ribbon through with my pointer and my middle finger. Now all I'm doing is adjusting my loops. You want to adjust them a little smaller than you want because when you're going to pull everything tight, the loops are going to get bigger. So I just make my loops a little smaller than I want them to be. And then to make them tight, I pull on both of the loops and then adjust it a little more if I have to, holding the center of the bow tight and then hot gluing my bow on top of my maple leaves. Next, I'm just cutting off the tails on a slant and we are all done with this gorgeous project. This is going to be a super easy project. I'm grabbing some white chalk paint and I'm going to paint this jar or this vase that I got from the Dollar Tree with one coat of the chalk Rust-Oleum paint. And as you can see, it has little squares all around it. After I painted it, I set it aside for at least an hour so it dried real well. Now I'm coming in with the white chalk Rust-Oleum paint in linen white and I'm dry brushing. That's why I have my napkin on the table. I'm dipping my shabby little brush in my paint and then tapping the paint on my little napkin and then I'm just dry brushing all the way on my little vase. And as you can see, the squares just come out and they look so beautiful. I absolutely love how this simple project came out. And now to finish it off, I'm just going to do the neck of the vase or the jar, and I filled the inside of the jar with some gorgeous leaf branches that had little berries on them, and of course I got those at the Dollar Tree.